here. Welcome back to another video in a series where I react to and review things about Australia. So today, in this video, I am going to be reacting to and learning about how to get your driver's license in Australia. So, I've done some research before I actually recorded this video, and it turns out that driver's license is actually spelt the exact same way that you would spell it in Canada. But the thing I'm wondering is the process different on getting your license depending on what Australia state you live in? Like, for example, getting your driver's license in Canada, the process can vary depending on what province or territory you're living in. Like, for example, British Columbia has its own process, Alberta has its own process, Ontario has its own process, Quebec has its own process, New Brunswick has its own process, and yeah, every single like Canadian province and territory has its own process of getting your driver's license. So my question is, can the process be different, like depending on what Australian state you live in? Like, does New South Wales have its own process? Does does New South Wales have its own process? Does Victoria have its own process? Does Queensland have its own process? Does Northern Territory have its own process? Does Southern Australia have its own process? Does Western Australia have its own process? And does Tasmania have its own process? So that's actually the one thing I'm actually kind of curious on finding out. So in this video, I am going to be seeing how you get your driver's license, and maybe we'll even figure out if the process is different, like depending on what Australian state you live in. So yeah, without further ado, let's take a look.
Here's how to get your driver's license in Australia, from your learner's permit all the way to a full license. It
Okay.
starts with the L plates. You'll need to be at least 16, pass a basic.
Okay, so it's basically the same. So basically, you can get your driver's license at 16, just like you would in Canada. So yeah, you can go for your. So what we call that, what the first stage of your license, at least in BC, what it would be called, it would be called a learners. I don't know if that's actually what it's called in Australia. I don't know if that's actually like the full name of it in Australia, but it does like refer to it as the L plate. So yeah, it definitely. So I would say yeah. It's basically the same age as it is in Canada. Well, in BC, anyways. So yeah.
It starts with the L plates. You'll need to be at least 16, pass a basic knowledge test about road rules, and do a quick vision check.
Yep, that is definitely like the same process, I would say, in Canada as well.
Once that's done, you'll usually get your permit on the same day. After that, it's all about practice. You're required to.
So I'm just gonna like take a quick look at the time frame. Application and testing a few hours a day, receiving permit almost immediately after passing tests. Um, Holding period minimum 12 months in most states. So I would say that's technically like around like the same time you would have your learners in Canada as well.
Permit on the same day. After that, it's all about.
Well, I would say, well, it's not almost exactly, but in Canada, it's like I would say like mostly around like maybe 1 to 2 years. It's mostly around there, to say the least.
About practice. You're required to log around 120 hours of supervised driving.
Oh, okay, that is interesting. Well, it's not that interesting, but um, it is actually the same process in Canada mostly. You do need, like, if you have your learner's license, you do need a supervised driver with you. So that's one thing that I believe is pretty common in most countries around the world, actually. So that's kind of interesting.
Including some.
Well, maybe not interesting, but at least that's one thing that's similar. That kind of stayed the same between both Canada and Australia. So yeah.
You're required to log around 120 hours of supervised driving, including some at night. This takes most people about a year. Every session should go in a logbook. You can also take a driving course to build confidence, but that part's
I do believe that I don't know if Australia has these or not, but I would assume that they would. But in Canada, you can actually take driving courses through a driving school, and there are programs and businesses that actually do stuff like this. So I'm pretty sure that Australia would like have like its own driving schools. I'm pretty sure they might. I don't know if they actually do or not. Um, but yeah, I say that's honestly like. But yeah, I think taking driving courses to like help you out with that, that's honestly a really cool. That's honestly like a really common thing that I would say would be very helpful in most cases, like taking courses with somebody who actually like like I guess you could say like knows the rules of the road on the back of their hand, if you know what I mean.
optional. Once you've done your hours and turned 17, you're ready for the driving test. Book
Hmm. The driving test, and this says the P plate. So is the P plate different than the L plate? Because in BC, well, they're actually changing it in BC. They're changing up the process now. I hear. So apparently, like the how the process would go, like I don't know if the changes have taken effect. As of the time I'm recording this video for you guys, but as of the time I'm recording this video, the process in BC would be first you'd have your your learner's license. So basically, you would have like a little magnet that you would stick. You would have like a little red magnet that you would stick on the back of your car, and that red magnet would have the letter L on it. And then after you graduate from that, you get a new you get a new magnet which is green, and it has the letter N on it, which basically means that you're a new driver. So does this P plate basically mean like so does this P plate like is it equivalent to the N that we have here in Canada? Like is that equivalent to the new the new driver license magnet? Is that equivalent to that?
it early because wait times vary. If you pass, you'll get your provisional license, P plates. Now comes
The provision. So what is it called? The provisional license. Is that the same as getting a new? Is that the same thing as like getting that N magnet that I just talked about like earlier? Is that like exactly the same? Is it like different? I don't know.
the provisional stage, which lasts 1 to 3 years depending on your state.
Okay.
During this time, you'll need to follow a few rules like zero alcohol while driving and limits on who can ride with you. You'll also need to keep the P plates visible on your car.
Yes, that's actually the one thing that they actually do say here in Canada. They want to make sure that your P plate, or not your P plate, your L, your L or your N, whatever you have on the back of your car, they want to make sure that it's visible at all times. So it's good that they're actually mentioning that. But yeah, that's really good that they're actually, like talking about that. I think that's really cool that they're like, like making sure that you're like saying that they're actually saying that you need to keep that you need to keep that plate like visible at all times. So that's good that they're mentioning that because that's actually the same thing that they do in Canada. They want to make sure that your L or your N is visible at all times. So good thing that they're mentioning that.
Ride with you. You'll also need to keep the P plates visible on your car.
Hold on. I'm just gonna go back a little bit.
Which lasts 1 to 3 years depending on your state. During this time, you'll need to follow a few rules like zero alcohol while driving and limits on who can ride with you.
Okay, yeah, that's okay. So this is definitely equivalent to the what the N is in British Columbia. So yeah, and I'm using British Columbia as an example because that's the province I'm from. So yeah, it's definitely very equivalent to that. So yeah, it's basically the exact same thing as the N in British Columbia. So good thing that they're mentioning that. That's very interesting. Hmm.
You'll also need to keep the P plates visible on your car. Finally, when you've held your P license for the required time and kept a clean record, you can apply for your full license. You don't need to
Oh, okay. So, yeah, it's basically like, well, as of the time of recording this video, it's basically like the same 3 steps that it is in British Columbia. So that's honestly really cool that they're, talking about that and like, I guess you could say like, it's relatively the same process. First, you go with an experienced driver for the L plate, and then which is equivalent to the L in British Columbia. And then after you have some time with your L, you move on to your N. Well, in British Columbia, but after you move on from your L plate, you move on to your P plate, which is equivalent to the N in Canada in British Columbia. And then after you spend your time with your P plate, move on to your full license. So yeah, relatively the same process. That's pretty cool, actually.
and kept a clean record, you can apply for your full license. You don't need to retake any tests. Just fill out the form and pay the fee.
That's interesting that you actually don't have to take a test because I'm pretty sure in Canada you do actually have to take a test if you want to go on and get your full license. So that's interesting, actually. I'm pretty sure you do have to take a. I'm pretty sure you might have to take a test though, in order to get your full on license. So that's interesting that like you may not actually have to take like any test. Like, did he say additional or optional? Hold on, let me actually see.
You don't need to retake any tests.
Okay, so you don't need to take any. You don't need to retake any tests. That's very interesting, because in Canada, I'm pretty sure you actually do have to take a test to like get your full on license. So that's very interesting, actually.
Just fill out the form and pay the fee. Most people get their full license by the age of 20.
Really?
Each state may tweak the details slightly, but the general process stays the same. And if you're a parent or guardian, your status doesn't affect the process for your child. Take it one step at a time and you'll be fully licensed before you know it.
Huh. That's very interesting, actually. So,
Here
um, so yeah, um, I'm actually kind of curious now. Like, he didn't, the person didn't say if it's like different, like across Australian states. So, yeah, maybe I might have to like, figure this out if the process is different, like in Australian states or not. So, yeah, I'll be right back with you guys. So here I am. I am going to ask if it's different. If the process in getting your driver's license in Australia is different. Um, does is the process different for getting your driver's license different depending on what Australian state you live in? So it's like creating the image. So yeah, let's see. I don't know if it's actually creating an image or if it's just playing with me or yeah. Just to let you know, I am using a AI to help me out here. So yeah. Adding final touches. I'll be right back with you guys when this thing loads. Alright, so it has loaded. I'm going to take a look at here. Is the process different for getting your driver's license depending on what Australian state you live in? Yes, each Australian state and territory has its own gradual licensing system, which with different rules and learner stages, minimum age, supervision, and testing. Okay, that's very interesting that they actually have that in. So they got process for New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, South Australia, Western Australia, Tasmania, North Territory, and then this one. I don't think I remember learning about this one actually. That last one, ACT. What is that one actually? So yeah, all of them do say about 16, which I would honestly say, yeah, okay. Yeah, so it's basically 16, like, for all Canadian, or for all Australian states. Yeah. Um, yeah. Looks like a very different process, like, depending, like, where you live. That's honestly, like, really cool that they're doing that. So, yeah, that's really cool that like, they're actually doing that. So, yeah, it is. So, yeah, we did figure it out. It is different depending on what Australian state you live in. Um, so, yeah, that's really cool that that it's different, like, across every Australian state, because it's definitely different than it is because the process is also different depending on whether you're doing it in a British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Yukon. It's different, like, depending, like, where you are in Canada. The process of getting your license is different depending on, like, what Canadian state and province you're getting in. Like, what depending on what Canadian province and territory you live in. But in Australia, it's basically the same thing. So the process of getting your driver's license in Australia can vary depending on what state you live in Australia. So it's definitely very cool that it's basically the same thing. But anyways, I think with all of that being said, I think that's where I'm going to end off this video. If you guys happen to enjoy this video, please make sure you hit the like button, and also don't forget to subscribe as well, and ring the notification bell. And if you have anything else that you want me to react to, review, or learn about Australia, you can leave it down in the comments below. And until then, I guess I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye!